Hello everyone and welcome to another DHanHan video. My name's DHanHan and this is going to be our third guide for how to play tank on Hollywood. So if you haven't seen the previous videos, feel free to click the card to watch this whole series, and if you have, then welcome, and we're going to start on defense first. So on defense, the tank is probably going to want to be holding this car, or at least close to this area over here. Once the resources get drained, they will rotate over to this corner over there. What that's going to do is they're going to be able to drain some resources while they're poking out the initial phase through the giant open space here. And once they poke out a good bit, they can then rotate back and get into a safe position. Your supports for this are probably going to be standing here, low ground here, but they can also be up on the tower here, while providing good sight lines to the tank that is trying to hold the choke as much as possible to keep the team restrained. Once you lose the point, the payload will start, and initially, best place for you to probably be as a tank is going to be right here. This provides great cover as there's little to no sight lines on you unless the enemy team stands here, and any team standing here is going to be open to the sight lines of your damage and supports on the high ground up here. The playing here is a good option just because it's a good spot to contest the payload, provide heals and support from your team, and anyone contesting you is going to be within your threat range as well as your teammates' threat range. Once you lose this battle here, the next place you're going to probably want to hold is going to be this wagon right here. This wagon's pretty good because it allows your team to have access to the saloon. They can have access to the jail back there. And it's not overly aggressive to where you're cutting sight lines off playing maybe here, where now you have only sight lines from way back in the saloon. Playing here also allows your team to wrap around and grab the mega and even contest this high ground up here, something that you won't be able to do if your team was positioned more so towards this area. And then next spot we're going to want to hold is somewhere around this corner, stopping this turn on the payload once it reaches here. This is just a good defensive position because your supports can camp out in the saloon right here while you're holding here. They can also sit over here, healing you from across the way, or even have the benefit of hanging out in the spawn to heal you and keep you alive as a tank. It also has a lot of excellent cover for the restricting the enemy team sightlines on you. And then on recontest, we're just going to want to hold front payload here while the payload is contesting. If you get bad spawns, don't forget to hit that F button on your keyboard. What that's going to do is it's going to teleport you to the far spawn, because the worst thing you can do on this map is staggering inside the old spawn that the enemy team is now taking. Once you guys finally all recontest back here because you guys aren't staggering anymore, best place you're going to want to be is right here, and that's going to be because it gives you access to the mega on your left, and it provides a good amount of cover that we can circle around this mega. Not to mention there's always a spot that we can rotate back towards, and there's also cover here on the right. All of this is in great sight lines to our supports, who are probably standing back here supporting us, unless we're playing a little more aggressive with supports, in which we'll stand here. But overall, this is going to be very strong for you to stand as a tank player, not to mention you'll have the payload blocking some more cover as it reaches this corner. Next big spot that we're going to want to hold is this choke right here. We probably want to stand right here, but this choke right here is one of the key parts of defending Hollywood. The enemy team barely uses this high ground up here, since your team actually has the better positioning to it. Not to mention your team also has great sight lines, and there's not many places for the attacking team to push into. This is going to provide a huge amount of cover to your team, and the enemy team is not going to have very great sight lines on your team unless they end up pushing into your team's threat range. And finally, you'll just try to get a recontest on point, and that's going to be how the defense goes. If you feel like you learned something, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. If you like this video or like this type of series, make sure you hit the like button. Lets me know if I should be making more videos like this. And with all that being said, let's break down the attack. So when you're attacking on Hollywood, the main issue is going to be this big choke here, and there's going to be the damage here on the high ground. So typically what tanks should do is either push off the tank to push them back to this area. This is going to force the tank to play back, and then it's going to allow your team to actually push through this choke. You just don't want to be standing in this choke as long as possible. You want to be moving through this choke as quickly as you can. If you find out that the damage on the high ground are causing issues to you, you can easily access these stairs up here, and that's going to shove them off. It's going to also push the tank back anyways, because your presence up here is going to scare the tank that they might get closed off. So that's going to make the tank retreat anyways, even if you run up here. Once your team has this high ground, you guys now dominate the attacking turn. The enemy tank may come to you from stairs to try and contest you, but mostly what we're going to be doing is waiting here, waiting for someone to get picked out, someone to get weak, and then we'll engage and start capping the point and stopping any mates from trying to push through this small choke. Once that happens, we'll probably end up capping point, and when we cap point, we can then continue to go on attacking. Next point on attacking phase is we're going to want to try and secure this high ground as much as possible. The enemy tank, as I said, on defense is going to be right here. So we're going to probably have to shove the tank off or rotate all the way right high ground to shove the enemy off here. Once we do that, the tank should back up once he's not getting the resources he needs to, and that will cause our team to be able to push through if they're not already joining us up on the high ground. Once we have the high ground, we basically rule the entire second point. What we're going to want to do is try to push up and get to this area as much as possible, having maybe 1 or 2 people on cart. Hopefully that payload will get to around here or so before the enemy team stops us, and that will allow us to hold this choke here, forcing the enemy to come out of this area, or this area. What that's going to do is they're going to have to use all their resources and ultimates, and they're not going to be able to have anything once they actually get to contesting the payload, and then that's when we can use all of our ultimates and we can do the fight. Definitely do not walk past this area though. Once you walk past here, your supports and teammates will not be able to help you, and so you're probably feeding once you walk past this area. But once that all goes, we will cap this point, and once we cap the point, we'll immediately push out and try to get anyone that did not hit the F button on the keyboard to swap spawns. That's going to cause people in this spawn room to want to mosey out on here, and they're going to try to go this way. So we're going to want to attack this doorway as fast as possible, taking over this health pack area and trying to hold here roughly. This is going to deter the tank from trying to push out to this position, and he's going to want to play here, which is giving us a little more space to work with. Not to mention it allows us to access this left side high ground over here, and it allows our damage to push out to this area too to contest. Fighting over the mega will also just give us an additional resource that the enemy team now has no access to, and so we should be able to push them off of this easily as well. Now the difficult part is going to be getting through the big choke. Getting through the big choke relies heavily on your team's ultimates and what your plan of attack is. Typically most tanks will try to do their best to converge the enemy into the middle here before using an ultimate, which usually ends up causing a pick or a couple people to die, which then allows us to push through. If you find out that your team gets a pick real early in the fight, definitely do your best to push through. Just try not to move yourself around too much, because your teammates are going to try their best to help you, and their only sightlines on you is through this big choke. Hopefully once you guys end up getting a pick or two, you guys will start to take over and you guys will have the point. If you find that this isn't working, you're always welcome to go up to the top right high ground and maybe try to do some weird pathing for your team to get your team fighting over on this side. But the third point is going to be mainly about just getting a pick and playing it slow until you get that pick. Anyways, I hope all this helps, and happy climbing.